Hey everybody, I'm Scott and this is my 1963 Chevy Corvair Spyder. It's a project car, it needs everything. I want to start with the engine. We did get it running, but it burns oil. There's visible rust on the cylinder walls and the compression is pretty subpar. So for me that all adds up to a complete engine rebuild because I want a clean, fresh, reliable engine in this car that has at least as much power as it had when it came out of the factory. Plus, I've never rebuilt an engine before and I just want the experience of that. Not really sure how that's going to go, but I'm pretty sure of one thing. If you're going to rebuild an engine, step one is removing it from the vehicle. Welcome to Lost Wrench Garage. I don't know who designed the lighting in this garage, but it's pretty bad. There's only 3 ceiling lights, only 1 bulb works right now. But the rest of the lighting is just shining straight into your eyes from the walls. So this week, I'm getting all new ceiling lights on its own separate switch. And here they are. Let's see the difference. Yeah, that's better. This is probably one of those how not to moments in my videos. It worked out fine in the end, but I needed a winch to help me get the car back on the lift whenever I didn't have an assistant to push it back on. And this worked out really well. Everything was fine. But as you can see, I was kind of in the line of fire there with this winch where it didn't have a remote activation system. So I had to sit there with the winch, and if that cable were to snap or come loose, I would have been right in the line of fire. So I don't recommend doing it this way, even though I got away with it. I was pretty happy that I was at least able to get the car on the lift without any help. That worked. Not a bad deal. A Warren Pulsall, 120 volt AC portable winch. Got that at Northern Tool. With them working on the lights in this garage, I had to park the Corvair outside for overnight. So I duct taped this plastic over the rear window because it was kind of rainy, even a little bit snowy. Here I'm pulling the duct tape off of here, and it's just peeling that paint right off. Can you believe that? I mean, this paint's shot anyway, but I did not necessarily expect that to happen, but it's gonna add a little more character to the appearance of this car as we take this tape off. That's what I call it, character. There's a lot of reference material, technical guides, books, literature that you can get when you're working on a Corvair, which is great. Super important. It's funny, when I ordered a book on how to remove the engine, this is what you get. It's literally like just a little tri-leaflet kind of, not really tri-leaflet, but like a little booklet. So how hard can it be, right? I haven't quite done everything on the top of the engine yet, like it calls for in this booklet, but the car's already in the air, so I'm gonna start working on stuff underneath, and then I'll go back to the top. First step underneath is to drain the transmission and remove the backup light switch. Yep. Oh. I thought that was a big like blob of sludge, but it's actually a spring up in there. That oil is gross though. I'm no expert on this, but this transmission fluid smells kind of like burned, you know, almost like a burnt rubber smell. It's not one of the listed steps, but I figure we might as well do it. Go ahead and drain the oil. Oh, huh. Man, be careful there. I just realized there's a ball bearing in my oil pan drain thing that must have fallen out from the transmission drain plug. I think I caught that. We're supposed to remove the exhaust pipe and muffler, and this pipe here is a little wide for the lift, and I want to drop this engine down through the lift. So I think this whole exhaust is going to have to come out, and that's going to involve getting up and dealing with the turbo as well. That snapped off, not too surprising. These things are rusty. No big deal. Let's try the other one. So rusted on there, I can't even get a hold of it. I'm almost certain I'll have to cut this off. Should be easy to cut, just right there. A lot of things in this little handy dandy manual here we've already done as part of the prep for the power wash of the engine compartment, or they pertain to non-turbocharged cars or forward control trucks. So we do have, though, the seal retainer on the front seal, the throttle linkage, and also some electrical stuff that we still need to do. And in this particular car, we're eventually going to need to take the exhaust off. And on this car, the exhaust is connected to the turbocharger. So we're going to have to work on that from above. We can't just do that below. So that's what we'll start on now, all this top end stuff. There it goes. It broke. Shoot. That's just the way it is. Well, I started wiggling on the tailpipe, and that just came loose at the turbocharger there, which is just fine. That's what I was trying to do, is drop the whole muffler and exhaust out of there. So I'm going to keep working on wiggling that out of there. I'm not sure. Doesn't look like it's actually going to pass through that opening there, though. So let's take a look at this from underneath. I'm trying to preserve as much of this exhaust pipe as possible because I might want to reuse it. So I'm trying to cut it very close to the muffler, and I'm finding that it's really thick there. So I don't know, maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I need to cut it back here, but this thing's intact. I thought I could just have it blasted and powder coated and reuse it. So that's what I'm trying to do. Keep at it for a little bit. That metal is thick. The other side's gonna be harder. Okay, it's just hanging on by the back there. There it goes. Oh, the geometry. There we go. See, that pipe is good. I think this is an original feature here, this for the spare tire to fit in there, or the cover. Anyway, replacements don't have that, so I'd like to preserve it. Or maybe that's just a dent, but it looks like factory, you know, like a factory made thing. So I thought I had to take out the exhaust from the exhaust manifold to the turbo because of that wide loop on that side, and I didn't think it would fit through the lift opening, but I remeasured and I don't think I need to take that off. So I think I'm done removing exhaust and fiddling with the turbo. I think the turbo will also clear down here and we should be okay. So I'm going to finish up with the rest of the top side here. Everything breaks on this car when you try to take it off. Okay, there's a rock in there. Why wouldn't there be? Oh. That was too easy. What's the problem? Oh. You okay, car? You feeling all right? Because that was pretty easy. Yeah, you're good? Okay. This actually looks to be in really good shape. No rust loss. It'll clean up real nice. Are we done up top? Did that, did that. Don't need to do that, did that. Throttle linkage we did. Choke we don't have. That's for the truck. That we did. Disconnected the electricals there. Regulators all the way out. Ground strap. I'll put the car on jack stands and remove the wheels because the next step is to remove the nuts securing the axle bearing retainers and axles to the brake backing plates. Now it says do not disconnect the universal joints, but to pull the axles and universal joints as an assembly. And I don't quite get that. I get the part where we disconnect the axle from the brake backing plate, but it doesn't seem to indicate you need to disconnect anything here, that it's all just gonna pull out. I don't understand that. Seems like that's attached to something. What do I know? I guess I'll find out. So we'll just start with what they tell us to do. If I break these axle nuts, then this car will be stuck on this lift with no ability to roll it off until I can fix those nuts, put new studs in or whatever. So I don't want them to break. but I'm not sure I can avoid it. Thinking about using a blowtorch. Let's just try these others. It broke. I mean, they're just fused on there, I think. I'm afraid they're just gonna break off, and I'm not sure there's anything to be done about it. Okay, that's turning. Okay, well, that worked. Okay, moving on. Put a little more heat on that. Oh, don't tell me. It's moving. It sounds like a drunken mule. Okay, 3 down. Wish I'd applied heat to that first one, right? My bad. You don't know till you know. Oh. Okay. All right, let's see what happens. Now I see how that universal joint, it's interesting. It doesn't actually physically attach anything there. It's just the splines you can see there as they go into the differential. They just engage in the differential, and it's sort of trapped between there and the bearing in the brake backing plate there. But once you take those attachments off, this just pulls out. So I did a little more reading on this. This is a book, Corvair Basics, edited by Bob Helt. And it shows this picture of the rear axle and attached wheel bearing pulled out. And you can see that the bearing comes out here and away from the backing plate. And this is where I didn't understand, because this bearing here is fused to the backing plate, and the whole thing is coming out as a unit. And this needs to separate from here. Otherwise, you do have to disconnect the brake lines, emergency brake cable, and pull the whole thing out. So I think I need to work on separating that axle bearing from the brake backing plate. It's free from there. Okay. Now that came clearer there. I think this will clear the starter. Yeah, finally got that out, and now I understand how it works. So we should have a little easier time on the other side. Hopefully. Catching on there. There we go. That was a heck of a lot quicker than the other side. Okay. See, I'm capable of learning. Taking a look at this 6263 Corvair shop manual supplement, get a better picture of the components of the axle and bearing. So based on that diagram, this is the shield, this is the deflector, this is the axle shaft flange, and this is called the puller ring. So this is all properly assembled on this side. Let's take a look at the other side. So on this side, we have the axle shaft flange and the puller ring, but the puller ring is not engaged. And the bearing is exposed because the shield is still stuck back here on the brake backing plate. That is supposed to be retained here on this side, and this is supposed to be pressed in. So this has all kind of come apart. So I'm gonna try to pull this off of here, at least to put it all together, if not reassemble it properly. Oh, it's bending, you know, because it's pretty thin metal. Okay, so this isn't gonna come out easily. We don't need to do it now. And these brakes are probably gonna be replaced anyway, and once they are, it'll be easier to get to this and deal with it. So I'll just leave that alone for now. It's nothing we need to deal with immediately. I thought if it came out relatively easily, it'd be good to kind of bring it back out here where it belongs. And, you know, just kind of for fun. But we'll leave it alone. Next, parking brake return spring. Next, speedometer cable and fuel line. Speedometer cable and fuel line. Oh, it moved. It's moving. Problemo solved. Next, accelerator control rod. And then we push that up into the engine compartment. For the accelerator, we also have to disconnect the other shaft here. Now the little clip that was retaining that rod to the idler went flying. So I have an assortment of these little E-clips. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw one on there to retain this washer. There. Next, we've got the shift tube coupling, which is right here. Now, do I have to shift gears to make it go that way, or am I supposed to loosen this and push that back? Which, good luck with that. That looks super rusty. I'm gonna try changing gears in the car to see if that just pulls the whole thing forward enough. Seems like that did it. Next, we'll remove the heater hoses. Okay. Done. Passenger side complete. Driver side complete. Next, we're going to disconnect and remove the clutch return spring, then disconnect clutch pull rod from the outer lever. Turn spring, pull rod, outer lever. Next, rear grille, rear seal retainer and seal, rear center shield and left and right engine side seal retainers. Okay, good. No substitute for the old blowtorch. Okay, we got it. This grill is actually in fantastic shape. Just straight as an arrow. Really nice, not banged up at all. It'll clean up really nice. Did I? This is the rear engine mount. The castellated nut with the cotter pin. That's what we're pulling off for the rear mount. Perfect. At this point, the recommendation is to get an engine jack under the engine so it's fully supporting the weight of the engine. And then remove the engine mount nuts. There are two in the front and one in the back. This is the driver's side front. It's a castellated nut with a cotter pin. Oh, that came right out. So what I think I'll do at this point is assemble the table I'm going to use to support the engine and roll it out from under the lift when it comes out so that I can assess whether I can get to these nuts while the engine is on the table. I think it should work. All right, I raised the car up again a little bit, but that little test to see if this table fits under the engine good, I think is a success. I ordered this table from Amazon in a custom size. You can get about any size. And I tried to measure it out so that it would fit well under the lift and under the car, and I think it's gonna be a great fit. So I'm gonna lower it back down. I noticed that because the car is on jack stands, the transmission and differential contact to the table with the engine itself still off the table. So I think I need to put a little wedge in there to support that as I'm taking off the rear mount nut. And I also want to put some plastic on this table so that I can do a thorough pressure washing of the drivetrain once I remove it. Okay, I got some plastic on the table and a little wedge under the engine. And then, I may be overthinking this, but I put a slippery garbage bag over that wedge so that I can more easily kind of knock that out from under the engine once we get the car off the engine. So I think it's about time. I'd say it's about time to drop the engine, but what we're really gonna do is raise the car off the engine. So let's go to work on those mounting bolts. 2 in the front, 1 in the rear. I think we got one other step we've got to do before we can get to these mounting nuts. The passenger side front mounting nut is kind of up in here, and the clutch mechanism is in the way of that. So I think I need to get this out of the way by removing the nuts on either end of this. There we go. Okay. There we go. It went. Okay, it turned. Okay. All right, that just came down. Do this one. Okay. This back of this engine is resting on the table. Seems to be okay too. Okay, here's the rear engine mount nut. I don't know, less rusty than the other, so I think I'll give it a try with less drastic measures. There we go. Okay, perfect. This engine is free of the car, and all we have to do is lift the car off of it. Let's do it. What's the worst that can happen? That noise is just the lift hitting the next notch and the lever clicking down into it. That's all that is. Hey, we got it done. The engine came out. That wasn't too bad, right? I think the Corvair engine is sort of designed to be easily removed. You don't have to hoist it out. It drops out the bottom. The engine, transmission, and differential are all one unit with common attachment points, of which there's only three. 3 nuts, the whole thing drops down. The biggest problem we had were all the rusty fasteners. I broke a few bolts along the way, but I guess that's to be expected in an old car like this. Next, we're going to tear this engine down, of course. I'm also going to have to pretty soon start looking at the body on this car. It's got a lot of issues. I'll need to take out the interior so we can assess the floors, that kind of thing. We're just scratching the surface. We're just getting started on this project. I'm having a great time. I hope you are too. If you are, please consider supporting the channel by hitting that like button. Not only subscribe, but hit the notification bell, because you want to be the first to know when I'm getting in trouble in the garage again. In the meantime, keep well, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.